John, thanks. Well, we are learning more about Omar Mateen. He has been on the radar of the U.S. government, the FBI specifically, since 2013. He was even interviewed by the Bureau twice for allegations of radical jihadist views. This all coming after some of his co-workers at his security firm expressed concerns to the federal government about this guy's intentions and motivations. He was not currently the target of any investigation, nor was he under surveillance right now. Authorities say they have secured was owned by him. It was found outside the nightclub, and they are now searching for clues. A lot of information we've got to pin down here. Let's check in with Tom Joscelyn. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and a senior editor of the Long War Journal. Some folks will be looking at this saying our government may have missed a whole lot.
Well, you know, keep this in perspective. First and foremost, the FBI has stopped a lot of plots. They got to get credit for stopping a number of guys.
Okay, let's talk about this one, though.
So, but you know, the problem here now, since going back to the Boston Marathon bombings, go to Fort Hood shooter, a number of times now, some guys who are known jihadists or known going down this path have gotten through, and that's disturbing. That's a big problem.
Look, the FBI interviewed him on quite a few occasions. They did interviews with him. They did surveillance of him. They did record checks. They found that he had face-to-face meetings with an American homicide bomber who blew himself up and a bunch of Syrians in Syria not too long ago. You know who this guy is.
Yeah, he knew, apparently, an al-Qaeda suicide bomber who killed a number of Syrians in Syria in a suicide bombing. It was part of a multi-pronged attack, 4 suicide bombers.
A guy, by the way, who lived in Florida.
Came from Florida. He went over to Syria. He joins al-Qaeda in Syria, and he helps lead a massive attack by al-Qaeda in Syria. In fact, one of the top al-Qaeda religious officials in all of Syria commented on this guy on Twitter, on social media, and was praising him. This is a guy who was a friend of Omar Mateen, or at least there was some contacts between the two of them. I think we need to know more about that, whether or not there's more there than was missed. I think we need to know more about Mateen's contacts with other possible extremists or jihadists, and whether or not stuff was missed there too. Again, the bottom line here is now we have several occasions now since going back through the last several years where known jihadis have gotten through, and that's disturbing.
You know, one of the problems that we had following the San Bernardino attacks was being able to access information from these shooters' iPhone. Apple wouldn't cooperate with us at the time. We got some, you know, gizmo or something. We were eventually able to get into it. Are you confident, or how confident are you that we'll be able to get that forensic information we need?
Right now, we don't know what he left behind in terms of an electronic or digital trail, okay? Usually these guys do leave something behind, and I think that it behooves Apple and other corporations to cooperate and figure this out. And the reason is because of this. There is potentially more extremists in play here. There's potentially more of a network in play here. This is a guy who has extremist ties going back several years. The first FBI investigation was in 2013, you know? So this is a guy who has a whole track record here now of contacting and being potentially being in contact with extremists. We need to fill in that entire dossier.
Yeah. How would this guy manage to keep his gun license, and how would he manage to keep his security license when he had been under investigation? I mean, that seems like a bit of a red flag.
Well, this seems crazy. I mean, the bottom line is if a guy sets off investigations with the FBI like this, there should be some trigger that when he goes to buy arms or goes to buy something like an assault rifle that says, wait a minute, hold on, we need to do more investigation here. Apparently, he bought these weapons, the ATF has told the Orlando police, just in the last week in Florida, including the assault rifle that he used in this attack. If that's right, basically there was no trigger in place to say, hey, this is a guy who got up on our radar a couple of times. Maybe we should stop him from buying weapons.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the bar is too low or too high to put people on various watch lists.
Look, the bottom line
The guy wasn't convicted of anything, but nonetheless, where there's smoke, there's fire.
But look, the bottom line here is if you talk to the FBI, you talk to American intelligence officials, you talk to European intelligence officials, the system's been blinking red for a long time.
Yeah.
There are a lot of threats. These guys are trying to mitigate numerous threats across the board. It's very difficult to figure out who is somebody who's just popping off at the mouth and who's somebody who's going to go shoot up an LGBT nightclub.
Yeah,
and
sure
that's the problem.
And we do know our government is working hard to do it, but when you have 50 dead Americans and potentially more to come, it's a problem. Tom Joscelyn, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, thanks so much. Good information here. John?